afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Rachel Roy. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Sitka Chamber of Commerce. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to thank our Presidential Circle sponsors, Sitka Community Hospital and Search Hospital. If you could, let's go around the room and introduce yourself and what organization you're representing. Do you want to kick us off over there, John? All of our events are open to public, and so we're really, really glad to have you. We do have the gala coming up. This is our opportunity to honor really special people in our community. We give a Business of the Year award, the New Business of the Year, and our COSEC Cap. And last year's COSEC Cap winner is here in the audience, so congratulations on that, and thank you for all you do in our community. We have our executive lunch, so if you upgraded your lunch and got one of those cookies, which I hear are really good, and I'm not eating sugar, so I can only go on what I've heard. Balanced Accounting Solutions and Westmark Sitka are the sponsors of that, and they have a really great vest that you could win, that we'll do the drawing for that at the end of the month. And I want to bring up Sherry. We have an update on some things going on with Visit Sitka, and we'll be hearing from her right now. Thank you. Oh, I missed coming back over here. I'll let you introduce it.
Whenever you're ready.
Sorry.
So my name is Sherry Aiken. I'm the Director of Tourism for Visit Sitka, and I asked Rachel if I could come up and just give you a brief update. We have some advocacy issues that are currently ongoing. If you did not see my blast email that I sent out last week prior to the assembly meeting, the city and borough of Sitka is looking to raise the bed tax from 6% to 16% in the city of Sitka. This is a nominal raise of 4%. They are going to exempt bed tax, or lodging tax as it's called, from the sales tax. So it would go, right now currently we pay 6% for bed tax and we pay 6% for sales tax on lodging, so it's at 12%. This would bring us up to 16%. Of course, at 16%, we're the highest bed tax rate in the state of Alaska by that nominal 4%. Anchorage has a 12% bed tax, as does Juneau. In Anchorage, of course, they don't pay sales tax. And Juneau's a combination like ours. They have a 5% sales tax and currently a 7% bed tax. The city of Ketchikan, it was pointed out to me by one of the assembly members, just so you know, and it's not fair because I'm going to push back on him when he's not here to defend himself, but we had dueling commerce statistics. I was on the website, which apparently the Commerce Department does not keep updated, with 2016. He had a newer one at 2017. So the city of Ketchikan is separate from the borough. They did recently raise their aggregate lodging tax because they raised their sales tax. Their bed tax is, of course, still below ours as well. This is an issue that I think is especially important, not just to the lodging people that are members of Visit Sitka and our community, but also to the chamber as a whole. This affects all of the business community in Sitka. In tourism, we like to say that tourism matters, tourism dollars are important to communities, but that tourism is everybody. It's just not the visitors, it's all of us. So it's not just the lodging, but it's the guys that are putting new tires on tribal tours buses as we speak. It's the folks that are providing flowers for their loved ones that are riding on cruise ships. It's the people at the laundromat that are doing the linens for Uncruise and Alaska Dream Cruises. It's all of the people in our community that are part of our business and our economic growth. And it's very, very important that we protect that particular segment of our community because it's one of the few bright spots in our economy right now, and of all of Southeast. And I have lots of statistics to back that up and reports, and I can go on and on about it, but we need your support right now in this issue. If you haven't written a letter to the editor, and I'm not going to tell you what to say or how to go, if you were for it, then go ahead and write your letter. But if you think that this might put some brakes on our growth, then you should be writing a letter right now to letting people out in the community who don't follow these things as closely know how we feel and what we have to do to protect the economy here in Sitka. They say that tourism's the first date of economic development. And I know that there are people in this room that have become a part of our community because they came here as guests, our friends and family and our travelers. And that makes the biggest difference. I have volunteers that actually could not bear to sail away on Holland America and move back here and now come down and tell other people about Sitka when they're here. So I can tell lots of anecdotal stories like that, but I know that John knows that's true too, that economic development is driven by people coming and seeing what's available in our town and what else we can do. And then they go out and start businesses that have nothing to do with tourism. So we need to be as broad as we possibly can in this particular area. Not incidentally, the Chamber is up to renew our contract for convention and visitor services with the city. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's falling during the budget process. So there is a lot of concern there. I will keep you updated on what's going on. I have asked some of you for professional references. If you're blocking me from blast emails, you need to check your junk email and make sure that there's not something sitting there. And I will tell you that the Chamber Master program we use, sometimes if you haven't seen our emails, you need to check in your junk or your spam mail because they do get blocked. And you'll think, why don't they ever talk to me or why don't they ever communicate? And you'll see them down there in your spam. So please do that. We'll keep you updated what's going on. Speak to me or Rachel afterwards if you have more questions and I can fill it out better for you.
Great, thank you. So we do have Sherry on the agenda for next meeting at noon next week, and so we'll be able to give more information about an update on Visit Sitka and our programs for this summer and how you can get involved. I did miss a couple introductions. Mike, you want to introduce who you brought?
I do. My name is Mike Clasby. I haven't met all of you, but I've been trying to fill in for a year, which was going to be originally a couple months after Dan passed away, Dan Belair, and then Larry retired then 2 months later. Bob Barger was going to come back, retire in Sitka after 19 years gone, and unfortunately Bob had health issues, so he was in and out twice. So I keep filling in, and finally we have a new guy in Juneau at our radio group there that lived in Wasilla and been around Alaska. He grew up with this gentleman to my left whose name is Kevin Barrett. And Chuck, who's our guy in Juneau, recruited Kevin to come and talk to us. So at 11:07 today, he set his feet on the property in Alaska, the state of for the first time ever in his life. He comes up from California.
Okay.
And the plan is that this guy's going to stay here and be part of your community running KIFW and KSBC. And I'm sorry that I haven't been able to be more involved, but I will say one thing, and I don't mean to take up a bunch of time, Rachel, but I mean it sincerely. This has been such a welcoming community to me. I worked in Juneau back in '97 for 3 years before. Came back there 5 years ago to be here for a couple months, as this gentleman alluded to when he was a guest, and I've settled into Southeast. Sitka's been the most friendly community. I've worked Ketchikan, Juneau as well. I love it here, and it's been a very good experience for me. And I hope that we can continue on the road that I hope I've presented to where KIFW can become a lot more involved in the community. So Kevin Barrett, welcome to Sitka, welcome to Alaska. And I hope wish you all the best.
So far, I love it. I came from Southern California, ironically. It's just in Palm Springs, so I've kind of gone through that. Look forward to talking to all of you guys at some point.
Well, we're definitely
Thank you
to
so much.
Get you integrated, and you're always welcome back at a lunch. So thanks,
All right.
thanks for coming and thanks for that great
Thank you,
introduction. All those kind words. Thank you. So we are so fortunate to get to hear from Evie Kinnear today from the Fortress of the Bear, one of the highlights of our Sitka community and visitor destination. So we're so glad to have you in our community. Les and Evie Kinnear founded the Fortress of the Bear in 2002. Evie was raised in Los Angeles as a single mother, raised her 2 daughters in the wilds of Los Angeles. A bachelor's degree in sociology led to a teaching position in Los Angeles School District, where she taught math and science. Evie went on to own an interior design business in Malibu. After her children were grown, she moved to Portland, Oregon, where she met Les. I want to hear more about this story. At a mutual friend's home. Their backgrounds were slightly different, but found a common ground in their love of nature, animals, and sense of adventure. Since moving to Sitka, Fortress of the Bear has absorbed most of her energy, but she enjoys movies, reading, and continuing to struggle with knitting. So please help me welcome Evie Kinnear.
Thank you. Thank you, Chamber, for allowing me to be here. And I want to thank my wonderful gang of supporters here. Partner in crime, Les, Joella, my right-hand person out at Fortress, Chris and Claire, our angels from England, SR, who is on our board and is guiding me all the time lately, Carol Odess, who's new to our board but excited to have her among us, and thank you all for coming. So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing, where we came from, what we've been up to, and what's going to happen. And I know you're anxious to all hear that. So. All right. We're going to look at how we got here. What are we doing? What do we do when we're out at Fortress? The changes for this year, and then our plans for 2019 and beyond. And I wrote best laid plans, and I think that goes. Everybody gets that one. This is where we were when we started. It was It looks a lot different, although some may think not, but it was full of trees. We had to climb and crawl through alder to get to the tanks. We couldn't get into the tanks without climbing up some rickety old stairs, and then a ladder to get down into the tanks. There was no holes. There was nothing. So it's changed. We started out on a boat. When I moved up here, Les lived on a boat, and so did I. I came from a huge home, and like I said, we had different backgrounds. So, when I came up here, I fell in love with Sitka. I'd always been, enchanted by nature and tried to live as close to it as I could wherever I lived. But he said to me that he was thinking of leaving, and we've told the story a million times, and I said, well, what would get you to stay? And he said, I have a great idea. And we schlepped out to the end of the road, and he showed me the tanks. So we started on the boat, we said, and I thought, let's get started, this sounds fun. We're going to reuse the old pulp mill water treatment tanks. We're going to rescue all the bears that we could. We were going to share the bears with the community and visitors. We were always hoped and still hope to have a rehab and release program, and take all that is known about bears and share what we learn with educators, students, and researchers. And this is all taken from my very first PowerPoint that I did to present to CETA, or at the Industrial Park Board, when we were trying to talk them into letting us utilize the space. This is how we saw ourselves. And this is how everyone else saw us. There's a little sad bear, in captivity, and this is how our town was going to look. And this is true. We're going to track bears. They're going to be all over the place. Bears that are in captivity are going to bring all kinds of other bears. So we had a little bit to overcome. And I'm going to show you this not as a way to say, look, this is a great job that you guys have done, but anybody that's trying to start a business in this town and has a vision, this is what you have to do, and keep looking forward. We had to grind out endless permit requirements from the state, and they kept raising the bar, saying, "No, you have to do this. Now you have to do that." And something that should have taken a year took 5 years. We had to find ways to make ends meet. Neither of us came from money. We had a little bit when we both started. We used that up. The farm was what we started with, and it provided years of entertainment and education to thousands. It was a wonderful thing, but it didn't make us any money. And it was expensive to keep people on board, to keep cleaning up after farm animals. And it was always part of what was required. And about the time people were giving up on us, we got the bear permit, and 8 days later, our first bear. 13 years later, the project is now self-sustaining. With time, we figured it all out. 5 years to meet the requirements to get our first bear permit. 7 days later, we get Kills New. 2 months later, his brother Shaik, and at the time, we didn't know that we were going to be able to get him, and we had, if any of you remember, we had Christine Fenwick Stevenson working for us, and I'll never forget the look on her face when I told her that Shaik was coming. We'd gotten a call from Phil Mooney, and that was pretty exciting. He wasn't going to have to be alone. Then we expanded the deck and opened up the second habitat. Remember, we started with just one. Then came black bears in a third habitat. And visitor numbers have been increasing ever since, at least 20% a year, except when they did the road. That kind of put a little kibosh on stuff. And we won over a lot of people that were against us, and we still do. People go, "I hated this place when you guys started," and now they come out and they say, "I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing." So you're not going to please everybody, we know that. In this next section, I'm going to have Claire, our bear manager extraordinaire, who not only is our bear manager, but she does a lot of the artwork, a good portion of it that we sell in the gift shop, and is incredibly creative. And then Chris is he's our operations manager, and he's going to be talking about our educational programs. So, but these are our main focus: our bear care, the educational sales, and our dreams, goals, and planning. So I'll let Claire take over here.
Hi, everyone. So for those of you that haven't met me, my name is Claire Turner. I've been with Fortress of the Bear since 2012 now. Originally came out to just volunteer with the project as part of my bachelor's degree in animal behavior. I've been working with bears in captivity for almost 10 years now. The majority of that has been at Fortress. When I first came out and found this place, I fell in love with it, and Sitka, obviously, how could you not? And just really saw the potential of Fortress and the habitat spaces for providing some of the best bear care that I've ever seen. So one thing I'd like to just talk to you guys about more of the day-to-day and what we do with our resident population is our bear care and how I split that into different categories, and just to give you an idea of what we deal with on a day-to-day. So nutrition, habitat, enrichment, and training are all sections that I will talk to you guys about. How are you? You're just clicking? Okay. Look at me doing technology. Okay, so mostly my slides are just adorable pictures of our amazing resident bears, because it's a big screen and you guys need to see it. So the diet is a huge part of our day-to-day at Fortress, making sure that all of the bears receive a good quality of nutrition. It's a very seasonal diet that they receive, which is a nice thing that we can offer them here with all the natural flora and fauna that we can provide from around town. So This time of year, particularly, greens, romaine, skunk cabbage, sedge grasses are really, really popular with the bears, and we're noticing that they enjoy that more in the spring, so we really try to drive home that we'll feed them different types of food throughout the season. And we keep that diet as varied as possible as well. So we don't have a set feeding time. One of our really popular questions, because it's a very typical zoo thing, is what time do you feed the bears? And I never really have a definitive answer for people on that. It's kind of when they're hungry, when they're behaviorally looking like they want something to eat. Depends if like in the summer, for example, we'll provide live fish in all the bear pools so that they can catch and kill their own food whenever they're hungry. So we really try to vary the nutrition, keep everything recorded. So we have these really nice several years of documentation now of when food needs to be on the increase nutritionally, calorie counts, what time of year typically that they're losing interest in that salad now and they want berries and they want fruit, and then when they've only got eyes for salmon and nothing else. So we record all of that, and as you can see just from pictures here, they have a really, really wide range of items. We're really lucky to have places like the Westmark and like Seamart and Lakeside, the local hatcheries, the local fish plants like Silver Bay, all donate, and just even local hunters too. You keep our freezers stocked with deer carcasses and deer hides, which can make great enrichment items and just great carcass feeds. So really nice natural feeds. So nutrition's a big part of our day-to-day for our bears. They can sure eat a lot. The habitats are, like Abby was saying, the tanks might look a little interesting from the outside, but once you get into those spaces, they're really, really big. They're much larger than the minimum requirement needed to house or recommended to house a brown bear in captivity. And they have really varied substrates, which is something that really appealed to me when I first joined Fortress. They have earth piles to dig through, rocks to kind of grind down claws on. The pools are a huge feature that the bears absolutely love. Swimming is something that you'll see them doing out there all year round. They'll ice skate on them in the winter a little bit, but come April, they start punching through that ice because they really miss their pool and they just want to swim. So we see a lot of ice baths happening, particularly this time of year. So the enclosures and the habitat space is ever changing as well. So every year you come out, you'll see a new hillside, a new den space, a new log pile, and every year that kind of mixes things up and changes. And of course in 2015, one of our biggest changes to date was to link those two enclosure spaces, which was huge, really great for the animal welfare, and gave the bears not only more space but new areas to explore and roam. So we're excited in the future to keep looking at doing that, and expanding is a big thing. And those of you that will will talk a little bit about our black bear expansion later on in the presentation. So yeah, ever expanding and ever changing. So I'm completely ignoring my notes, look at that. So one of the things we've got here, just this end picture, you can see the climbing structure. So not only are the spaces large, we can increase full space by building upwards. And this is a form of enrichment, which brings me to the next slide. So enrichment is essentially enhancing the quality of life for a captive animal in a number of different ways. You can break enrichment down typically into 5 categories. Food-based, so rather than just giving animal food in a bowl, you hide it, you bury it, you smear peanut butter on the logs, you dig little holes and create trails of scents and all kinds of things like that. So food is a big motivator for these guys, so presenting it to them in different ways is a really good way to kind of increase their foraging behaviors, their natural behaviors. It makes them work a little bit harder for their food. Physical enrichment is probably a favorite among a lot of our residents. So toys, things they can destroy, something as simple as a cardboard box with some straw in it and some curry powder or something smelly. They can shred it and they feel like this big mighty, and that's super fun. But then also giving them items like beer kegs donated by Bibco that they can't destroy, but they can really manipulate. They can play within the pools. Toys made of buoys. The possibilities are really endless. Social enrichment has been fascinating. Opening up those 2 enclosures, introducing the 2 groups in 2015 was really big, and we've seen some romances and some friendships bond and some, I don't know, Toby and Kilsnu, there's a whole different thing going on there. Those guys are not so in love, but the love triangles have been really interesting to watch. It's like our very own soap opera, so that kind of social interaction between the two groups is a form of enrichment in itself. And also the social relationship the bears have with the keepers is huge too. They have their favorites, they respond to people differently, and that's really interesting. Sensory enrichment, again, smells, things you can rub on. So Bandit pole dancing, if you guys hear, showing you that he's got areas of materials that he can rub, and different smells encourage that kind of natural behavior, and that's what you would see bears doing in the wild when they scent mark. And then cognitive enrichment, so puzzle feeders, things that really get them thinking, and that was one thing that brought me out here in the first place. My degree in animal behavior was focused very heavily around a bear intelligence study in which our dearly departed Baloo was my subject animal for problem-solving test, which was incredible to kind of see how intelligent these guys are and really start putting them on a comparative scale. So one of the main ways that we can enrich the bears in a cognitive sense is through training, which is something we've been working on at Fortress for several years now. So this is a real way of working with those bears and keeping them, keeping everything kind of firing mentally in a great kind of mental capacity. So I've got a couple of images at the top here showing some of the varied training methods we use. So everything basically starts with target training, something as simple as tennis ball on the end of a stick. And it's amazing how fast a little bear cub will learn that if he touches his nose to that ball, he gets a treat. And then every time he sees that tennis ball on the stick, he's super engaged and ready to work with you. And it really helps build up that bond between animal and keeper. And then you can start shaping that behavior into other things. So any of you that have been to Fortress will know the very famous signing for more food, as always demonstrated by Toby. We're working on the bears showing us, giving us a real good view of their feet, which is great for medical kind of veterinary training and to look at paw pads and just do checks. We're working on determining left from right now, which is really interesting to see them making that difference and change. We can do dental checkups with an open mouth training method. So great photo opportunity to start with, because Kilsnu's super sweet, but he looks pretty mean right there. If you can imagine being face to face with one of those animals in a training space, you can really get a good look at the teeth. Zoo dentistry is super expensive and very invasive, so if you can treat an abscess when you start to see redness or soreness from a weekly tooth check, treat that with antibiotics and never have to really get to that point of root canals and other things, which can be super stressful and invasive in large species. And various other training things too. We have an up signal, so we get the bears to stand on their hind legs, another natural behavior they'd engage in. So all of these things not only keep the bears mentally stimulated, but it helps us work with them. It helps us build the bond with the animal, and it helps us treat them in a veterinary capacity. We were able to have Michelle Oakley come and work with us last year, I think it was. And she was able to work with one of our bears down in our training space. And we had Toby stand up, and Michelle was able to use a stethoscope and listen for a heartbeat while she just stood and took treats from a keeper, which is not something she'd ever achieved on an awake bear before. Normally that would require a large anesthesia and lots of monitoring just to kind of get those vitals. So to be able to do things like that without anesthesia is a lot more stress-free and just gives us a chance to really monitor the bear's health. And this is a new training thing just to give you an idea of the intelligence and the other things we're working towards in the future. These images down here were Baloo's first ever blood sleeve training session. So step one there is to have Baloo put his foot on a big red pad, and that was exciting for him, so he did it immediately. And then he received treats while keepers were able to hassle and touch his foot and manipulate it. I'm pretty delighted about this, as you can see. And the eventual goal for this would be to step this up into shaving a patch of hair and being able to take a voluntary blood sample from the animal while you're just sat working with them. So you don't have a blood sample that's tainted with any kind of medication. You don't have to use a large anesthesia dose to knock the animal down just to get that sample. So it's all things that make life for us easier working with the bears, and again, building those bonds is super important to us as keepers because we love our animals. So yeah, that's kind of what we do on the day-to-day. That's my area. The bears are these amazing captive ambassadors for their species, and they don't show any negative stereotype behaviors as a result of the care they receive, and that means that visitors, guests, tourists get the best possible experience when they come to see them. And so they really do so much for education. And at that point, I'll pass you over to Chris to talk to you about education, I guess. Let me find your next slide. There you go.
So my name's Chris Turner. I'm the operations manager at Fortress of the Bear. I came out with Claire in 2012 as well, although I had no background in this field. I just followed Claire. I think that did help me though with the education side of things. Coming in as a layman and learning as I went, kind of knew what level our general guests would be looking at and then trying to build up and advance it from there. So for our education programs, we cover through a few topics here. We got the visitors and tourists that come out and see us. We get lots of local groups that come out and visit us and experience things that we do. We bring up interns every year, and we've been doing that for a few years now. And then our networking opportunities. So our visitor tourist experience, again, coming in as a bit of a layman on this, what I found the first year I was out is that our naturalists up on the deck would give very, very in-depth talks, often not over the mic, which meant certain people missed it, especially as they're captivated by what the animals are doing. And it was over a lot of people's heads, and I found from reading our online reviews and the frequently asked questions that we kind of skipped over a lot of the basics. It would even get to the point of, what are our bears called? Like, we wouldn't even, sometimes people would skip out on that stuff. So we decided to take our education program right back to basics with our large group presentations. We have a good group of staff who give a sort of short and punchy 10-minute talk to every group that comes out on a tour bus. Get over the basics of where did our bears come from, what's the difference between a brown bear and a grizzly bear and then a black bear, where bears are found, and then general education things from there to really cover the bases. And then from there, once we've broken away from that, we can then, with 4 or 5 people on the deck, talk to smaller groups, go into more of that in-depth knowledge if people want that, or story-based. A lot of people like some of the stories that come out of this and anecdotes and things like that. Make it more specific to the group or individual, depending on their questions, and try and keep it nice and information-based, but a bit tailored back for the general groups. That's with the one-on-one personal experiences. It's great when you catch one or a few people up there and you really get to start talking, because like Claire said, with the training and things like that, we've got some great stories. Those bears are always doing something different, and again, with it being seasonal, you get someone come out in May that doesn't see some of the things they get up to in October with the fishing and things like that. That's really fun to talk about. We also offer meet and greets for guests where they can come down. We bring a group of up to 4 people down through a barrier, and they get to feed apple slices or carrots to the bears up close. And when you see a bear like Kilsney there up close, it's pretty impressive when you've come out for an afternoon on a bus and you get to see him. You can see, this is actually from an Easter egg hunt event. You'll see an Easter egg next to him there, and this is the amount of people that were kind of watching him. He's posing for the picture. He loves it. Then with our local education, we're constantly getting school groups come out to visit us throughout the year. Some of them coming in sub-zero temperatures and not really seeing anything because all the bears are asleep. But they still come out. The kids in this town are very hardy. They don't mind the rain, which is always good. But then on top of that, we'll get visiting baseball teams, softball teams, basketball teams from all over the state that come out. We always comp them in, take them round, give them a talk for however long. They've kind of got some of them half an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And one thing I particularly enjoy doing with the kids, which we don't get to do with big groups, is actually bring them down on the same level as the bear, have them behind a barrier, and bring a bear into the breezeway structure. Usually Shaik, who's 8.5 feet tall, weighs just over 1,000 pounds. Bring him in, kids are set a little way back, get to talk about it and get to stand up so they get to see how big he is compared to someone who's 6 foot, and then getting to put his paws through so they get to see the claw, see the length of the claw, everything's just a bit closer. You get to talk about the anatomy of a bear a little bit more. It's a bit more of a personal experience for these local kids to actually see these guys up close, which is something we don't get to offer the groups because of just how personal it is. The Sitka Conservation Society and the 4-H education classes, we looked at going into schools and offering more education, but the schools told us they loved coming up to us so much that that was the best way for their students to learn about bears. So what we offered, and Claire in particular here, because my art is not good, it's difficult to tell me or the 3-year-old daughter which is which on that one, but Claire's an amazing artist here. She's actually going to go into classes and do art classes with local students. You may have seen through some of the gift shops in town, some of the drawings of bears, especially feet, are often not anatomically correct. So go in, have someone who knows about bear anatomy, how to draw a bear, and then someone who's very good at art as well, going through and giving art classes on bears. That's the kind of programs we're looking at. The community events. So one thing we brought from England with us is the Great British Bonfire Night. I know some of you may have been out to that event. November 5th in England. Bonfire Night, or Guy Fawkes Night, is a really big event where we have a big bonfire. We burn an effigy of Guy Fawkes. It's a big tradition at home. Because it's November 5th, we get all of the local kids in town to bring out their Halloween pumpkins, which we fill with treats. We move the bears out of the way. The local kids get to go in and put their pumpkins around the habitat, and then get to watch the bears come in and destroy their pumpkins for the treats, which the bears enjoy. It's usually their last big feed before hibernation, so it's just so much food. We didn't get to do it last year, unfortunately, because we were pretty swamped with some of the projects Evie's going to talk about. Events like that, the Easter egg hunt, which you can see Shaikh there with Easter egg, and then the picture before of Kilsnu. We get big paper mache eggs, we boil up eggs, again local kids boil up eggs and paint them with non-toxic paint or in flour and stuff like that, and bring those out. And on July 4th we have picnics for the bears, so we lay out big picnic blankets, everything's American flags and stuff, and the bears come in and have a big watermelon picnic, which they really love. For Forest Service staff training, with this local group in town, they bring up a lot of seasonal staff each year, so we bring them out and discuss bear safety because they're working out in the field so much, so we go through bear safety protocol. We do with the school groups and every other group that comes out. It is one of the frequently asked questions, but that's the specific reason those guys come out, is for bear safety. And again, because it's usually a little bit earlier in the season, we bring them down close, see a bear up close, so they know what kind of they're looking for pads and footprints and stuff like that, and just how to be bear aware. And the fish and game collaborations, we've done a few of these now, and they're always terrific fun. Fish and Game will bring a school group out, but they will take the lead on the education side of it in the presentation. But what we do is we move the bears out, and we'll set up a whole campsite. The kids get to explore the campsite. They filmed a little skit before about how the kids have been fishing, but you know they're pretty tired, so they're just going to put their cooler in the tent. It'll be fine. All the kids get to come out, and then we just let the bears loose, and they just destroy everything. They come in, destroy the tent, rip up the cooler, and it's just that visual representation of you don't want to be amongst this right now, which for local, not just kids, people, is always good not to mess with a bear. So stuff like that is quite incredible that we get to offer that for the local people there. Our interns, this is Erin. She was our intern in 2015. She did an excellent job with her and another colleague that came up. We actually hired her on in 2016, and she worked through 2017 before taking a job at SeaWorld San Diego, which is an opportunity you can't pass up, but we would definitely take her, bring her back in a heartbeat. The idea of the intern program is, first of all, these kids get to come to Alaska, which is always amazing. They get to learn about bears. It's about being a bear keeper within a sort of small setting. You get to work with the animals in a very close proximity, which is great to have those bonds with 7 specific animals at this point. And they get to learn that. We also do lots of training, as Claire was talking about, but they get to actually present that to the public. We do a lot of our training on the deck with the public around, which a lot of facilities don't do. They tend to do their training behind closed doors, whereas we like to do it out front, and the interns get to learn how to do training with large animals, but then also how to present this to the public. Try and help them become better naturalists, because they do answer lots of questions. There may be things that, because you have come through an education program, you kind of go 2 steps beyond, and sometimes you need to bring it back down a little bit. So just get a really broad range of how to be a naturalist, and then put across your passion for animals, and get to do that day by day, which is always incredible. And we've had like interns like Aaron go to San Diego. We've had interns go to Costa Rica and work with sloths down there. We'd like to keep more of them, but we do keep hold of a few. This year we've got Cassie, who was an intern with us. She's staying on for another year. We bring up some fantastic people. We're very Claire does the interviewing for this, and very strict on who we bring up, and we bring up some incredible people because of it. And then our networking opportunities. So we talk to various groups throughout the world for networking, such as the Bearco group, and there's lots of zookeeping groups around that we talk to. When Claire introduced that blood sleeve training, we put it on our Facebook site. We were getting bombarded by bear facilities throughout the world, some in Vietnam, some in China, some back in England, others in Europe as well, because even though we learn from other groups, we are kind of at the forefront of a lot of what we do. And things like that, we do try and share information as much as possible. When we were back in England a couple of years ago, we went on a zoo trip. We did 9 zoos in 8 days, traveling around, not just seeing how they operated with their bears, because not every zoo had bears, although the majority of them did. We pick up things for enrichment and engagement. It could be tigers, lions, could even be monkeys, could be birds. You pick up these ideas. Also then going through the gift shop and stuff like that, you learn, oh hey, that's selling pretty well, that's quite neat. Stuff like that which we can bring back to what we do. And then it's just about constantly looking at ways we can upgrade and improve. That's why we're always online looking at these things. This is why we really pay attention to our TripAdvisor reviews and other reviews that we get through other sites. There may be things that we just miss, and if they keep coming back as a constant, we've got to go back through and look, okay, we've got to improve this side of things. So we're always looking at how we can adapt and improve to keep ourselves moving forwards. A future project which we'd like to do with schools throughout the world is, it's great that our local kids get to come out and actually see us. We are currently putting together a video program which we can put out to local to teachers in classrooms that they can show their students. And we're looking at a Skype a Bearkeeper program. Now, as far as I have seen in the research, this hasn't been done anywhere before in terms of Skype a Zookeeper, so that students would be able to watch a video presentation about what we do at Fortress, bears and things like that, and then they can actually Skype direct to one of us, and we can do that close up, just like we do with the local kids. This is a bear, this is his paws, this is him opening his mouth, this is him standing up big, and they can ask questions rather than just seeing a video. So that's one thing that we're looking at sort of getting implemented, and that will come with some of our future builds, which Evie's going to talk about. But there's lots and lots of stuff going on at Fortress, and we're always looking at how we can improve and move forward from there. And I'm going to pass back to Evie now to tell you about the things we are improving on.
Thank you both. You did a great job. You can see why we keep them. Okay, what are we doing? Let's see. You guys broke it.
That's it. We're glad.
That's it.
Pack it back.
Back to England. So this is, we have to make money. Can't pay anybody, can't keep things going, can't build. So how do we make our money? Well, the largest portion is our entrance and all the people that come off the cruise ships, the independent travelers, all of that. And that's our bread and butter. And so we better treat them right and make them feel welcome in this town. Our donations take up 25%, although I did this pie chart, so it's not.
She's a math teacher, that's 115%.
True story. Anyway, thank you, honey, for making
That's all
sure
right.
that you pointed that out. At any rate, that's kind of how it works. And then one of the things is that I want to mention, and I want to get to where we're going because I know everybody wants to see. But in our sales, in our gift shop, I think we do something that most organizations don't do, and that's that we do a lot of our work in-house. We make our own shirts. We make a lot of the souvenirs that are in there. It gives us a much wider profit margin, and Joella is in charge of that, and her creativity and her organizational skills are just top-notch, and that makes that. And then Claire does some of the, you've all seen the Claire Bear, the big bear on there. That was her design. She's done a myriad of designs, and they're all beyond. So we're really lucky in that. This is our dreams, goals, and I'll just keep going because I know times. So this year we said goodbye to Baloo, which is, I can't even talk about. Tears come to my eyes. I had no idea that the impact of that was going to be so far-reaching and so deep in our thing. We did everything we could. Dr. Ween helped. We had a crew out there, but he just couldn't be saved. So this year we're doing the Black Bear expansion. Last year, CETA, or I want to keep saying CETA, forgive me, the Industrial Park Board let us take over, let's see if this will work, this space. Am I there? No.
It doesn't show up on the screen.
Oh, good. All right. So that neon green thing there, that is our expanded area. It's a huge hillside, and we've enclosed it with this fence. This is the first fence that's going up. It's going to be, and half of it's well, more than half. What, 4/5 are done. It's covered with sheet metal so that the bears can't climb out. And then there'll be a secondary fence. That'll keep the bears in. And then there's a secondary fence required by the feds, the USDA, that says we have to have a second fence to keep people from going in. So if you're that stupid, I don't know what to tell you. But,
With the Claire Bear on the side.
Yeah.
Do not enter.
yeah. At any rate, that whole hillside up there will be bear habitat, and it should be done within the next 3 or 4 weeks, completed. What we have to do is we had to breach a hole in the wall of the bear, one of the bear habitats, let the black bears go in there so we could remove the fence that is currently enclosing them. And and we got a group of volunteers. Anybody wants to volunteer and come out and help with that fence? This thing right down here. I can't show it. That green area right down there, that's the fence that needs to come down. So very exciting. We're hoping to have someone up to film it, and when we let those black bears climb, you'll never see them again, but it was fun while they were there. Okay, the visitors. So this year, and the reason why we had to tell people not to come out is that we are getting ready to put in a new visitor center. And it's right now they're putting in a foundation, and that's all that's going to be put in this year because we ran out of time. The permit process was a lot longer, so we can't really start building till the end of the season because we've got visitors coming. So there'll be some ground level viewing in our new center. I'm going to show you a visual in a minute. The expanded gift shop space, as most of you know, we have a very tiny gift shop, so it'll be about 5 times, I don't know, the size. There'll be indoor viewing upstairs. We're building a whole new area that will be enclosed so people can get out of the weather. It can also be used for events. That event space, educational classroom space, which will allow, when we have classrooms, they'll have a space to sit down and get comfortable, and bathrooms. We have 2 bathrooms right now, that's what we said. So we will have 8 stalls, 4 on each side. It's pretty exciting. And here, let's see, where'd it go? Uh-oh. Ta-da! Drum roll, it's gone. It's like, it's on here, it's on my little guy. Let's see if it's...
Is that your way to get us out there?
And the show. Come see it.
Oh, there it is.
Hey!
Nice.
It
So,
was worth the wait, right?
how pretty is that?
Wow.
So Chris Goad, who's an architect out of Seattle, who's been our friend for years, designed it. We have Keith Custom Construction doing is a contractor on the job. So this is the entrance. There'll be a single entrance coming in, and right here is the entrance right here, and then there's a exit over here, and this part here with the little skinny windows, those are the bathrooms. And those people are all going to be there paying lots of money that are down there. Yeah, so it's a huge thing for us. Then, I'll give you a little bit better. This is the view from the Bears inside. So there's the inside viewing. That's going to be in the gift shop, those little windows. And that's what you're not seeing is the little bit of deck that comes out that's expanded that we did, I think, 2 years ago. But that's not showing up. But this is the inside view of people being able to look, and that'll be on both sides of the building, so they can look into both places, and that will be our event. And I have this is the blueprint of it. So I wish I could, does this show up? Yeah. Oh. So this is the gift shop here. They'll enter in here, pay lots of money, and come in and in here and go up the ramp. So it'll be one entrance, no. And what's going to be nice right now, people go, I'm just going to run upstairs and look at the bears, and it's a huge liability for us when people just do that. So this will make sure that people can't do that. I mean, the bears are a dangerous, potentially dangerous situation, so we're really pleased that we can alleviate that. And then, so this is all the gift shop. These are where the windows are here, and these are the restrooms down here. And then upstairs, this is the existing viewing deck right here. This is the new event area, and it'll take you down into the gift shop and then exit out wherever the door is, I don't know. And then the restroom, also enter into the restrooms here. We're excited. We can't wait. It's been a long time. And then as far as the future of there's so many things, but we're really focused on trying to get a rehab and release program going, where there's logistics to work out, there's state policy to address, but it's a successful proven successful. Our friends up in Smithers have released over 300 bears back into the wild with a very low rescind rate, about 3%. And then there are 29 states that will allow it. Alaska, with our healthy bear population, so far has not supported it. And we're working with some people to try to make it happen, and some of the groups that Chris mentioned, that the bear care groups have a lot of success, and they also have a lot of information to share with us about that. And There you go. Thank you all for your patience. Any questions or?
Oh, yeah, do you want to take a couple
Are
questions?
there any questions? I know we're ready to talk.
Dr. Wayne.
Dr. Wayne, Richard?
Sometimes people really don't appreciate what various organizations do for the city. And I was wondering if you could share with us how much money you put back into city coffers through sales taxes.
Right. How much money have we put back into the city?
It's hard to say, but I know sales tax is up 12% over the last 3 years. Bed taxes are up
I mean,
22%.
we do pay sales tax. We try to purchase as much as we can locally. So if we're going to buy from Spenard's or we're going to buy from any of the places in town that we can, we go to Northern Sales. Were you going to answer?
No, just a simple calculation would be, we've made, over the last 5 years, $2.5 million, and it's all gone, so it went back into the city, one way or another.
In salaries.
Just an important part to
Yeah.
remind how important
Yeah.
you are to the city. And one other thing is that I see you're wearing leopard spot.
Those are next. They're coming.
Is that any hint as to the future?
Of course. Yeah. That's what we're taking over the recycle center and just do a real zoo.
We do have an increasing number of people that come specifically to see the bears.
Right.
That's something
From all
that's
over the
important to
world.
note. Yeah.
Have you ever had any babies born out there?
No, we're not. Well, the state doesn't allow captive breeding, and we wouldn't want to have captive breeding. If we happen to get a young female bear that was pregnant, that would be wonderful. But we haven't. That would sneak it in. But as much as we all love cubs,
Everybody's fixed.
yeah, except
okay.
Gary.
Yeah, I got a question. So, a number of years ago, I was up in Anchorage at the Anchorage Zoo, and I watched this polar bear, and he just had this tick where he just kept doing this like figure-8 circle, and it was really sad. As the stuff that you guys are doing here in the training, is that like being disseminated to other zoos so that animals have a better quality of life in other zoos?
Yeah, it's a fairly, like, enrichment and training programs are fairly common in zoos now, particularly zoos that are trying to be at the forefront. Like, zoos are not what they were 50 or 60 years ago, where it was just an animal in a pen for you to look at for entertainment. Now, and I'm sure like all the folks at the Raptor Center will know about this too, it's zookeepers really do everything they can in their power to avoid those stereotype behaviors. And I know the Alaska Zoo does have enrichment programs, but when you have a large, intelligent carnivore like a polar bear, once those things are developed, it can be difficult to break them out of it. But differing enrichments and trainings will change that, and I know one of the things they were working on to rectify that is they were expanding the polar bear exhibit. I'm not sure if that's finished yet, but
I think they're doing it in 2 stages, and they've definitely completed one.
they're working on it, but that's the kind of thing that would have a huge impact. Often polar bears are kept in enclosures that are just far too small. So one of the things Alaska Zoo is doing to rectify the pacing behavior that you would have witnessed would be to expand. But yeah, it's we have albums full of enrichment ideas and different things that we've tested, things that have worked really well, things that haven't been really very popular, and yeah, we definitely network that to zoos worldwide. I've been in talks with a zookeeper I used to work with in the UK, now works with a different UK zoo, and they've partnered up with a zoo in Vietnam where the animal welfare is still excessively poor, and we're working with them now to educate their keepers on how to enrich the animals and improve the space. And just something as simple as putting a wood chip pile where there was concrete once before can be super engaging for an animal like that. So yeah, we're definitely trying to utilize any information we find, any ideas we have, and share those with zookeepers worldwide. Yeah.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, and I just want to thank you all for being such good partners for us at the Chamber and Visit Sitka. We actually brought 15 travel writers out last season. I know we've done site visits when a convention group comes to town. If it's October or it's March, whatever it is, you guys pull out all the stops, and we're able to bring them on their site visit and say, hey, here's something that you can add to your program. And so it's just such an asset to have that. We also added on our hiking map, which is in the planners, we brought some over, be bear aware. And so just trying to get that message out, and so really, really great. I did want to talk just briefly. I know we all just ate, but the food at the gala is going to be amazing. We have Our Town Catering doing the food. And, we really step up the service as well. So we'll have hand-passed hors d'oeuvres. There'll be oysters there if you're a fan of oysters. We'll have a grilled endive Caesar salad with local shrimp, lemon, basil, and garlic pasta, crispy roasted pancetta, Brussels sprouts, and beef tenderloin with garlic butter. So we're not cutting on any of the deliciousness on that. The Westmark has been working on some really awesome signature cocktails. We'll have a fire bar and an ice bar, so you can imagine how that will be. Wine is provided by Odom Corporation, so each table will have some wine on it. I have an awesome gala committee. Lillian Owens is on that committee, as well as Mandy Odenheimer. The Ferricks bringing out all we're transforming the Centennial Hall, which is like, oh, it's a challenge, bring it on, right? So make sure you come. Will you be fire or will you be ice? Next week we have a threefold. We'll have the presentation from Sherry Aiken on Visit Sitka and all the things that we're doing. If you're curious, our member application that's out on the table has all of the services that we provide, and in there on the last page there's lots of stuff that we're doing at Visit Sitka, as well as we will have Andy Rogers here from the Alaska Business Week, and that's a program that helps young people get up. It's in Anchorage, and they're looking at expanding it. It's teaching them how do you do a business, how do you write a plan, giving them the skills and the ideas and the wherewithal and the connections to be able to be future entrepreneurs and our future business leaders of our state. So if you know a high school student, that's the connection we want to make. And then Dimitri Sheehan he's the Democratic congressional candidate, will be here as well visiting Sitka that day, and he'll be here if you want to meet him. So we'll see you all next week. Very exciting. Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you all for coming.